All right. Just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second to set up here. There, we got the lack of tardiness going on this time. So we're going to see if my sound is working correctly. What's going on? Good morning. Good morning. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me clearly. Just getting things online. That's right. Finally get to catch a live. I'm over here going in the morning. All right. I'm just getting some things started. I'm gonna get started soon. Just give me a second. What's going on here? I don't think I'm getting sound on my end. So that kind of sucks. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not getting any sound on my end. Not quite sure why that is. So I like to work out these kinks beforehand. But I wasn't able to do that this time. Do y'all hear background music, by the way? Y'all hear that? Because I don't hear anything on my end, unfortunately. Because I got some janky... I was literally watching one of your videos when the notification popped up. Oh, there we go. That's right, the algorithm is algorithming. So we're gonna see how long that lasts. Okay, you hear it? All right, so that's just... I've been having a lot of sound issues on my laptop. So I don't know what that's about. So just give me a second getting started up here. Let me go holler at the folks on TikTok. I got a few things to talk about too today. You know what I'm saying? And put your questions in the chat too. So if you got any questions or anything that y'all want me to dive into, any topic requests, you know, let me know. I'll do that too. I'm using multiple microphones that may cause an echo. Multiple microphones that may cause an echo. We don't want that. See, just give me a moment here. What's that thing? How we do that echo check thing? So it's checking for an echo. 1 second. No echo found. There we go. All right. So I am coming to a close for the, what you call it, my 7th week. This is my 7th week now that I'm almost done with for the alternate day fasting strategy. All right, I'm 7 weeks in. So I'm almost at my 6% body fat goal. Almost there, basically on the journey to leaning out before I spend the rest of, not the rest of the year. The rest of the year, yeah, but I'll spend the next 10 months with a weight gain goal of 24 pounds within the next 10 months. So that's the goal I'm aiming for. So. Switch earphones. See if that works to turn on my vibes. Ah, there we go. There we go. All right, I got my playlist going. Yeah, so basically, I'm now in more than halfway through week 7, and pretty good with the results, I must say. So basically, going into a little bit of that, right, and talking about the nuances of cutting, right, and there's different stages of cutting, right. So the different stages of cutting, basically, there is getting to a normal healthy weight, which is very easy to do, roughly, compared to like getting super lean. There's a very big difference between the two, right? So like, for example, a good healthy body fat for a man is like around, let's say 10%, in between 10 and 12%, right? 14 at the most. And then for women, it's going to be in between 20 and 25% as far as body fat is concerned. Now, if you want to get really lean, that's a different story now, right? Because if you want to get really lean for a man, that's going to be around 6 to 8%, right? And then for a woman, it's going to be more so between 16 and 18%, right? And that's like super lean. Now, the reason why you would get to that body fat percentage is not so that you can stay there and live at that body fat percentage. That's not what the goal is, right? It's a setup for something else. When you get that lean, there are some major fundamental changes that happen in the human body, right? And basically, getting that lean is a setup for something else, at least in my view, in my experience, right? My whole thing is about what do we have to do in order to get to like our ideal body fat percentage. Uh-oh, there we go. What do we have to do to get to peak health? Right? I'm a little distracted. My apologies. I got a lot of windows and whatnot coming up here. Hold on. Yeah, so basically, and I'm gonna answer y'all questions in the comments in a minute. Actually, let me get this going here. No, I don't want to do that there. This here. All right, there we go. All right, so yeah, then the question that becomes, let me start over. So I'm doing alternate day fasting. I'm running it for 12 weeks. I am halfway through, or more than halfway through week 7, right? I am currently at 9% body fat, is where I'm currently at. My goal is to get to 6% body fat by the end of the 12 weeks. So I'm kind of stepping up my game. Now, there's different phases of the 12-week strategy that I do. So there's an echo. On TikTok, there's an echo. Uh-oh. So I got to figure out what that echo is about now. I don't know what changed in my sound settings, why there's an echo now, because there wasn't before. So now I got to figure out what that's about. You mean like my voice is echoing, or there's something else echoing? You gotta let me know what that is. Like if on TikTok my voice is echoing, is that what that is? Let me know. So yeah, basically, I'm getting to 6% body fat. And basically when I get to 6% body fat, my, oh, you said it went away now? Okay, gotcha. So that's weird. The echo popped up and then it stopped. That's interesting. So yeah, basically, all this technical stuff. This is why people have producers. In the beginning, my strategy as far as the alternate day fasting was basically a full day of eating where I eat Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Full days of eating where I eat in a caloric surplus of around 25%. And I did that for around the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then after those first 2 to 3 weeks, then on my full days of eating, I dropped down to like 20% of maintenance, right? So you have your maintenance calories, and I ate 20% over that on my eating days. Then and I did that until like week 5, somewhere in the middle of week 6, right? So now I'm eating at maintenance. You said the echo sound is possibly the mic. So wait a minute, did the echo go away or not? And then the folks on YouTube and Facebook, do y'all hear anything echoing on my end? So you guys are good on my end. Because y'all gotta let me know. Some people are saying you said you don't hear anything? Because that's kind of weird. Y'all on TikTok are saying you don't hear anything. So I'm muted? Because why are some people hearing an echo on TikTok and some are not? You don't hear any echo. Why are some... I don't know why y'all are hearing different things. Yeah, y'all can watch on the stream on YouTube also. But anyways, I'm over here getting distracted with technical issues. I kind of wonder about one thing. Give me a second, y'all. I gotta sort something out right quick. I'm also live on the Tribe by Noah platform too for Tribe members. So I got a lot of live streams I'm managing right now. I'm over here stepping up my technical game. Yeah, so basically, before I get more distracted than I already am, I am at the point now where I'm eating at maintenance. So 100% of maintenance on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And then on my fasting days, it's a 24-hour fast. I did the 24-hour fast for the full 7 weeks, right? So basically I fast for 24 hours and I break my fast. In the beginning, for the first, let's say 3 to 4 weeks or so, I broke my fast with a meal that it was in between 800 and 1,000 calories, and now it's in between 600 and 8. So basically stepping up the intensity of the weight loss effort. This week, I'm now eating around 600 calories on the 24-hour fast day. So I'm breaking my fast on that day. So like the last, what is it? On Tuesday. Tuesday was my first fasting day of week 7. And I basically broke my fast with a half a cup of dry roasted cashews and a whole avocado. So the dry roasted cashews, the half cup was around 320 calories, something like this. And then the avocado is another 250 calories. Right? I'm mentioning the calories. I don't put a whole lot of an emphasis on calories, but tracking calories to a loose extent does have its benefits. Wanda Little, what's going on? Good to see you in here too. I see you popping up in the comments. You said eating in your fasting days never works for you. Oh, you've tried alternate day fasting before? By the way, Wanda, does everything sound clear and good on the TikTok stream? Yeah, no, I love the technical stuff, right? You're awesome being able to handle all that. Miss D, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Aro, how much calories you consume a day? Or whatever's in your routine. Yeah, so normally I eat like around 2,700 calories a day. Around that. Right, that's normally what I do on my eating days. I do not cut calories, right? Generally speaking, I don't. Most of the year, I don't. I actually overeat most of the time. Right? So, oh, you're alternate day fasting now? Got you. I never do caloric deficits. I typically eat in a surplus, right? Typically what I do. I overeat most of the time. I enjoy eating. I eat most of the time. Most of the year I eat like I'm trying to gain weight. Right? I don't really do the calorie cutting thing. I don't even really do alternate day fasting. I actually try to eat as early as possible, right? Most of the time. This is the thing that I would advise for most people actually, is that you eat in abundance most of the year. Even if you're trying to lose weight. The reason why is because all the constant under eating, you'll mess up your hormones and metabolism. If you're gonna cut and really try to get super lean, you really want to commit like a block of time to doing that, whether it be 12 weeks or whether it be 52 weeks, right? Whether it be 12 weeks, 24 weeks, or whatever the case is, right? But basically, my goal is to get to the 6% body fat as a setup for something else. The way we view weight loss is very nuanced, right? So, skeletal muscle, or just lean mass weight, and then your fat mass weight. Well, let's say fat-free weight and then fat mass weight. And these two things make up the bulk of your body weight. And then there's like bone mass, which is fat-free mass. Interestingly enough, bone mass, your bones are not really that heavy as compared to the rest of your body, right? Your bone mass can be anywhere from like 6 to 8 pounds or something like this. It's not a significant amount of bone weight, right? And even like your bones will hold like 14% water, interestingly enough. Your bone mass actually holds more water than your fat mass. So like your fat mass will hold like anywhere between 10, maybe 14% water. It's typically like around 10% water. I don't think it actually reaches more than that. It's like 10% water. Fat is what's referred to as hydrophobic, right? So, fat and water is like a zero-sum game. This is the reason why, like, if people say, oh, you drink a gallon of water a day, you lose more weight. And the reason why is because more water in equals more fat out. Water is a transportation mechanism for oxygen. So the more water you consume, you increase oxygen saturation in your body. This increases thermogenesis, and an increased level of thermogenesis leads to more fat metabolism, right? This is the reason why people will do like aerobic cardio. It's because the more cardio you do, the more oxygen intake you get. More oxygen intake equals more thermogenesis, a raising of body temperature. And as your body temperature raises, you get more thermogenesis, and that burns more fat. All right? And then, of course, you get more oxygen expenditure. And then as you expend more oxygen, you get more carbon dioxide output. Carbon dioxide is basically how fat leaves your body, right? Fat leaves your body in the form of a gas. So fat is stored inside your body in a solid form, but as thermogenesis increases, that fat converts into a gas and then is expelled out of your body as your body uses oxygen, right? You need oxygen in order to burn body fat. That's how the science of it works. When you go in a sauna, basically saunas increase thermogenesis, therefore increases more carbon dioxide output, right? So that's why people like go in a sauna and during weight loss, people will do cardio for weight loss. And then even down to the foods you eat, right? So you have carbs, fat, protein. Protein has the highest thermogenic effect, carbohydrates is second highest, and then fat is dead last. So if you wanted to maximize thermogenesis through diet, your diet would mostly be made up of protein and carbohydrates. Ideally, it would be made up of mostly carbohydrates, and then protein would be your second highest nutrient. Right? If you wanted to maximize thermogenesis through diet, and that's how you would be able to metabolize the most amount of fat. Right? This is body recomposition, essentially how it's done. So basically, you could scale your fat intake down to like 10 to 15% of your macros, or at least 20%, in order to really optimize your diet for body recomposition. All right, so this is essentially how it works. But basically, as you lose weight, interesting thing that happens is your whole body shrinks, right? So your muscle volume will shrink and fat volume will shrink as well. A lot of the time I talk about like using fasting as a way to maximize muscle retention while dropping body fat, right? This is true. However, there's a difference between muscle loss and muscle volume contraction. Just because the actual muscle volume contracts does not mean that that's muscle loss. That's not what that means, right? The actual proteins that muscle mass is made up of comprises these muscle fibers, and those muscle fibers can enlarge and they can shrink, right? Those muscle fibers can be filled with blood, and when that happens, that's typically referred to as a pump. And those muscle fibers can also be increased in size with glycogen. Glycogen is basically glucose that is stored inside the cells, right? So when you store glucose inside your cells, that is called glycogen. It's a cluster of glucose molecules inside the cell. And so you expand the muscle size with that glycogen. However, when you're dropping body fat, your body will reduce stored glycogen in muscle tissue and in fat mass. Both happen simultaneously, right? Your lean mass, like skeletal muscle tissue, is a vital organ in the same way where your fat mass is also a vital organ. They're both vital organs. You don't really lose fat cells in the same way you don't really lose muscle cells. You can lose muscle cells though. Fat cells don't really particularly go away, but you can lose muscle cells through muscular atrophy, right? The muscular atrophy happens to a degree depending on how aggressively you do a fast. I mean, how aggressively you do like your weight loss approach. This is why I say if you want to pursue weight loss, your best way to pursue weight loss is through fasting as opposed to, a calorie deficit, so to speak, right? You don't want to be like underfed, right? While just perpetually underfed, like a caloric deficit does. So this is why I don't really recommend that people eat below maintenance. I don't really recommend that people eat below their BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. That's the minimum amount of calories your body would burn in a day, right? So this is why I'm a big fan of like fasting, or in this instance, alternate day fasting. But the interesting thing is, right, as your body weight drops, if your goal is to be as lean as possible, you don't want to just reach a healthy body weight. You want to get as lean as possible. Just understand there's going to be a lot of weight loss. Bodybuilders, like competitive bodybuilders, know this all too well. So for example, let's say you're a competitive bodybuilder, you are 6'1" and you walk around normally. You live at a body weight of, let's say, 210 pounds. You just walk around at 210, right? If you want to lean out for a show, then in your cutting phase, you would have to drop down from like 210 pounds to like 180 pounds or something like this. We're talking about like nearly like a 30-pound weight loss. You may even have to drop 35 pounds down to 175 for a cut for a show, right? So the idea basically is like a competitive bodybuilder that you would bulk up, you would gain weight, you would maximize muscle growth, and you would get up to like that 210, maybe even 215, right? In order to really fill out your frame and build as much muscle mass as possible. And then you would cut down before the show and get to like that 175, 180 as far as the body weight, so you can be really muscular and lean, right? So this is the idea. People who are new to a cut, they get a little taken by surprise for this, because let's say you're a guy who's 6'1", you're not particularly that muscular. Maybe you're in your first year, maybe 2 years of training, and you want to do a cut. So you may cut from 210 and get to like 200, and then be like, oh, I don't know, I'm looking a little small, right? I don't know if I want to lose more weight than this. And it's like, look, if you have a problem with looking small, your cut is gonna be real hard, because we're talking about like, if you really want to get soup, not at a healthy weight, right? Because 200 pounds, 210 is a healthy weight, generally speaking, for somebody who's 6'1". But if you want to get lean, well, then you have to drop down a little bit more than that. So you're going to have to get over that fear of looking small, right? Because when you cut down, basically you're cutting your body weight down to a more accurate reflection of what your lean mass actually is, right? So if you're a guy who's 6'1" and let's say you have your lean mass is like 140 pounds or 150 pounds, right? And 150 pounds of lean mass is a pretty substantial amount of lean mass, right? So like for example, for me, when I get to like about 160 pounds, my lean mass is like 145 pounds. So for me, normally, my lean mass will actually be more than guys who are like 5'11", 6 foot tall or whatever the case is. I have more muscle mass on me than your average adult male who's much taller than me, right? So an interesting thing happens, right? When I drop down to 6% body fat, on this scale, my lean mass would actually drop substantially. So me at 6% body fat, at the beginning of my cut, if I keep going by the end of week 12, I would get down to about 140, maybe 136 pounds, something like this. I'm 5'9", 5'9 and a half, something like this. So my weight would get down real low. So people would be like, damn, you're going to drop down to 136 pounds, 140 pounds? That's crazy. But this is a fasting strategy. It's a bit different, right? That's after a fasting day. So if I weigh in after a full day of fasting at 136 pounds, it's not an accurate reflection of my real weight. That's after a fast. When I have a full week of eating, my weight within a week can pop back up to like 140, 142 pounds. Within a week, I can gain like 6 to 8 pounds in a week after my cut. But however, my body fat percentage would stay the same. See, this is where it gets interesting. Because when I say that getting that lean is a setup for something else, that's what I'm referring to. You cut down and you can gain back your lean mass quicker than your fat mass, right? And the reason why is because of where the glycogen storage goes, right? Your body has a choice between filling muscle glycogen and filling the glycogen of your fat cells, right? If you're 6% body fat, you're real lean and you've lost a lot of weight. When you start eating again, your insulin sensitivity is going to be way up, and your body's going to prioritize filling muscle glycogen as opposed to fat mass. All right? The only way that wouldn't be the case is if you're just eating terrible like processed foods that are like high in processed sugar and fat. Then you'll store more body fat. But on my diet, when you're eating like bananas and melons and grapes and lentils and sweet potato and these different types of things, these carbohydrate-rich foods, and you're getting in the protein, your body's going to prioritize filling muscle glycogen as opposed to your fat cells. So my body fat percentage can stay at like that 6% or stay in between 6 and 7%, and I can gain by the end of the week 6 to 8 pounds. So I go from being 140 pounds or 136 pounds at 6% body fat to then being like, 144, 145 pounds, 6.4% body fat, right? And then the following week, then, gaining another 4 pounds or so, right? The following week. And then going from being 145 pounds to like 149 pounds, maybe 150 pounds, and body fat being at like, 6.7% body fat, right? So it'll go up real slow. By the time I get back up to 160 pounds, my body fat percentage can be like 7%, maybe like 7.2% body fat at 160 pounds. So there becomes a race. When you're in a cut, your muscle volume and fat volume come down simultaneously, even to the point where muscle volume will come down quicker than your fat volume. But the reason why is because fat is more calorically dense as opposed to like lean mass. So, 1 pound of lean mass will be 700 calories, and 1 pound of fat mass will be 3,500 calories. So it seems like you're losing muscle mass faster than fat mass. It's not actually what's happening. So you have your total body weight, and then you have your fat-free body weight. Then you have your body fat percentage and your lean mass percentage. Now, what you'll notice is your fat mass percentage will slowly decrease, but your lean mass percentage will very slowly increase. Those numbers will start to deviate. Now, in the beginning, the only number that's really moving down is the fat percentage, but the lean mass percentage stays the same. This is typically how it looks like on a scale, like if you measure on a digital scale. So you don't look at your total body weight necessarily. Don't freak out like, oh no, I'm losing a lot of skeletal muscle mass, weight, or whatever the case is. That's not what's happening. It's just a contraction of muscle volume due to a depletion of glycogen. So what happens is towards the end of the cut, you'll really see your body fat percentage start to notch down a lot quicker, and your lean mass percentage will really start to increase more, right? So like, let's say at the beginning of my cut, right, my lean mass percentage was like 56 and change, somewhere around there. Now it's like almost 58%. It's like the high 57 point something percentage, 57.7%, something like this, right? So by the end of the cut, it'll be like 58 point something, right? 59%, something like this, close to 60% in lean mass. So it's important to keep in mind how these numbers work, right? Reducing your body fat percentage, your body fat percentage decreases very slowly. It doesn't happen very fast. But if you hit that 6% body fat, that sets you up for the next several years of your life. That can set you up for like the next 5 years of your life. If you really put in the time and you really put in the consistency, you can set yourself up where you're just always just perpetually lean to the point where that body fat, it never really comes back because you don't create the conditions for it. If you just stop at getting at a healthy weight, you're always at risk for gaining excess body fat, right? This is why people gain the body fat back really quickly. Like people will lose 100 pounds, 150 pounds. And then like 3 months later, they've gained back like 50 of those pounds. And they're like, oh man, I gotta cut again. So they're doing this yo-yo thing, right? That yo-yo thing is a trap. This is the reason why you would want to consider getting as lean as possible and really dedicating as much time as possible to getting to that percentage, right? And you don't do it through exercise either, by the way. If you try to exercise your way to that 6% body fat, you're going to destroy your body because your joints can't handle it, right? And this is another reason why, I'm big on the fasting strategy, is because it's the least wear and tear on your body if you want to get truly lean. So you'll have people where they're like, they get into like long distance running for weight loss, because typically how it works is people will do a standard caloric deficit, right? People get into like this standard caloric deficit. Hold on a second here. I gotta move that out the way. People get into this standard caloric deficit to lose weight, right? And then they'll do all this cardio and working out. They'll start doing resistance training like 4 or maybe even 6 days a week, and then doing like an hour of cardio a day, and it'll start with walking. And then the weight loss will start to slow down, so then they start running. And the weight loss will pick back up a little bit, and then it'll plateau again. And then they'll start running a longer distance, and then the weight loss will increase again, and then it'll flatline. And then they'll start running faster. And the cardio becomes more and more and more intense, and it starts to become longer and longer and longer and longer. This is the trap people fall into because they try to work the weight off. It's not how it works. You can work the weight off, but you destroy your joints in the process. So a lot of people, where they're like, oh, I run 5 miles a day. I run 10 miles a day. And they end up tearing up their knees as a result, right? You get a lot of wear and tear on your body when you try to work the body fat off. Okay, because body fat comes down so slowly. If you're going to try to work it off, you're going to beat the crap out of your body doing that, right? However, if you pursue a fasting strategy and you maintain that fasting strategy, whether it be for a quarter of the year, a half a year, or a whole year, the fasting offsets the need for doing all of this work where you basically run your body down, right? So generally speaking, I'm like, hey, if you're trying to cut, you really only need about 60 to 90 minutes of resistance training a week. And then if you're going to do like, cardio for weight loss, walking is fine. You can run if you want, but walking is fine. And you can walk for 10,000 steps a day, 14,000 steps a day, right? Maybe even up to 20,000 steps a day. 20,000 steps a day is very aggressive, okay? If you have to lose a lot of weight, like 100 pounds or something like that, then you want to be a little careful doing that, because walking 20,000 steps a day, when you have like 100 pounds to lose, 150 pounds to lose, that'll wear you out. Because all that extra weight on you and doing a lot of walking. Look, walking 10,000 steps a day when you're 100 pounds overweight is very different than walking 10,000 steps a day when you're 40 pounds overweight. Those are fundamentally different things. One is way harder than the other. And if you want to experiment with it, get like a rucksack, right? Like this kind of military backpack, and then fill it with weights, right? Fill that backpack with 50 pounds, right? Fill that backpack with 50 pounds and strap it to your back, and then go for a walk for 10,000 steps. You see how hard that is, right? When somebody has to lose 100 pounds and they go walk for that 10,000 steps, just understand they are working harder than anybody, right? So if you're one of these people, you have a lot of weight to lose, just understand you are far from lazy, okay? Obese people are the hardest working people among us, all right? So it's one thing I gotta say is don't ever fix your mouth when you see somebody who's 100 pounds overweight and they're working out. Just understand they are outworking you by default. You'll never work as hard as them, ever. Their workout's way harder than yours because they have all that body weight strapped to them all the time. Even when their workout stops, even when they finish working out, the workout doesn't end. So when I talk about taking that backpack and putting like 40 or 50 pounds in it, they walk around with that backpack on all the time and they never get to take it off. You will, if you've never been that overweight, you will never understand how hard it is, right? People who so when you see people who are really overweight like that and really obese, they're not lazy. It's not laziness. It's hard as hell. It's hard. It's super hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to live with. It's extremely hard, right? No one gets chronically obese because they're just lazy. It's a chronic illness. It's a result of food poisoning and trauma and societal toxicity. And it drags people down. All right, and this is a thing that's not talked about a lot. When we talk about weight loss, you got to understand how people get to a weight like that. It's chronic illness. It's not laziness. It's not what it is. Laziness is barely a thing, to tell you the truth. It's not like a real thing. What you perceive to be laziness is not. That's not what that is. All right. Most people who are like really overweight and obese, they didn't get there just because, I just ate one too many bag of chips as a habit. That's not how that works. Right? It was things like, you can get set up for obesity by like not being breastfed as a child. You can be set up for obesity because of like, mold poisoning. You lived in a house that had mold in the roof, mold in the walls, mold in the bathroom, and you've been breathing in toxic mold spores throughout your childhood. Emotional trauma, emotional abuse, right? Even to the point where like you could have been like overweight as a kid and your parents withheld food from you because they rubbed it in your face. You're a fat little kid and you need to lose weight, so therefore we're going to shrink your portion size of your food and get you used to being hungry. It's abusive. And then if you have siblings, it makes it even worse, because imagine you're the one fat kid at the table with your siblings, and your siblings are skinny and you're the only one that's overweight, and so your parents give them normal serving sizes of food and they cut your portion. That's a form of abuse. And that sticks on you even up until you're a fully grown adult. If you don't resolve that, if that doesn't get hashed out, you can live with that trauma your whole entire life. Yes, that is a trauma. That's child abuse. Withholding food from your child is child abuse. Forcing them to exercise and all of this type of stuff is child abuse. It is. All right? If I had a child that was overweight, I wouldn't just pawn them off on somebody, to, like a trainer at a gym, and make them work out. Hey, you got to go to this gym and meet with this trainer to lose weight because you're a fat little kid and I don't want a fat kid. That's abusive. Right? Work out with your child. Go for hikes with your child. Play sports with your child. That's a healthy way to do it. Just don't point at them and tell them you're going to go work out because you're fat. That's abusive. Right? Weight loss, weight gain, these types of things are very nuanced conversations. Right? So when we talk about these things, we have to understand them a lot more deeply. It's not just about calories and macros. Right? By the way, Don Ann, hold on a second. Don Ann, appreciate you for gifting the heart puff and the heart me on TikTok. Appreciate you. Soccer Warrior, what's going on? Thank you for the heart me. Appreciate you. Jerry, thank you for the rose. Appreciate you tuning in. But in any case, get off my soapbox a little bit. So yeah, for me, achieving the 6% body fat, I can spend the next 10 months to gain 24 pounds. So that 24 pounds would put me at like around 160 pounds, maybe a little bit more than that, right? So if I drop down to 136 and I gain 24 pounds, that would put me back up to 160, right? And I would end up at 160 pounds and around maybe like 10% body fat at the most, right? Once I hit that 160, at that 10% body fat, I do my next round of that 12-week alternate day fast to cut down from the 10% and cut back down to 6% again. However, when I drop down to the 6% body fat again, it wouldn't be going back down to that 135 or 136. It would be like 140 or something like this. It would be lower. And the reason why is because when I got back to 160, I didn't get there by putting back all the body fat that I didn't drop. It doesn't work like that. So every year, you have a surplus of muscle mass gain, right? So that's the strategy. If you're always focusing on improving to become the best version of yourself, you don't have to worry about backsliding and being in a deficit, right? You don't got to worry about falling off and then got to worry about getting back on the wagon, right? So that's why it's good to like not live at the margins. Being ahead of the curve, you always want to think about your future, what the future looks like. Most of the time, you're in the present moment, but you set aside time in your day to focus on your future, right? I'm sorry, all this muscle and no meat, I just don't understand. It's pretty nutty though, right? Just because protein is made out of muscle does not mean you need to eat a ton of. Uh-oh, what happened to my sound? My sound just cut out on me. Is that on my end or something? Oh, my earphones just cut out on me. That's crazy. I don't know what's going on with my earphones. But y'all can still hear me clearly, right? My sound cut out on me, but y'all can still hear me. Okay, that's weird. My earphones, my sound just cut out on me. I don't know what that's about. Maybe I gotta switch. Not unless my earphones died on me or something like that, maybe. I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Now I'm gonna answer y'all questions too. I just gotta fill y'all in on some things. Oh, okay, it's back. That's weird. All right. All the technical glitches. Tuesday was rough. Tuesday, my connection was like super laggy. Tuesday was brutal. I was like, God damn. By the way, folks, like the stream. If you like the stream, double tap the screen to like the stream. Xavion. What's going on? I like that name. Xavion. What's going on? Good morning. See, that's the journey. So basically, you know, looking forward, right? It's good to kind of write out like a macro goal schedule. If you look at your calendar year, it's good to block out your calendar year. So like, for example, you have Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Right? Q1, first 3 months of the year. Q2, second 3 months of the year. So basically month 4 through 6. And then Q3 is the third final 3 months of the year, and then Q4 is the last 4 months, the last 3 months of the year. And you think about like in one quarter, what is the goal for that quarter? Let's say Q1. What is the Q1 goal? What is the Q2 goal? What is the Q3 goal? What's the Q4 goal? You can block, let's say Q3. You can block Q2, 3, and 4 together, where basically Q1, Q2, 3, and 4 are all used to achieve a particular macro goal. And then a smaller macro goal is dedicated more so towards Q1. So for example, if you do alternate day fasting for 12 weeks, it would take 1 quarter of the year to do that. Right? That's kind of like how that would work. It's a good way to think about your year in that term. And it doesn't just have to be like a health goal or a weight goal or anything like that. It could just be like any kind of general life goal. And it's good to map that out and have a schedule, because now it's at like the front of your mind. It's not like just this amorphous kind of thing where you're just generally working towards, but you have like deadlines, you have like, it's mapped out, right? And one thing I find is that when you do that, when you plan things out like that, it keeps your focus and attention on it, right? If you don't set a deadline, like imagine like you have a job, right? Imagine if you didn't have a time schedule. It's just whenever you got to work, you just got to work, and whenever you left work, you just left work, right? If you didn't have a set time that you got to work and clocked in or clocked out, or if you have a clocking thing, I don't know how different jobs have a different thing. But like, so for example, my official work day, my official coaching schedule, I start coaching at 11 a.m. every morning. So my coaching calls are in between 11 and 4. right? 11 a.m., 4 p.m. Every day except Sunday. However, my broader work schedule, I start at 9, for example, with these live streams. And I go from 9 to 8. Sometimes 9 to 9. It's like a 12-hour day. The reason why is because, well, I own Tribe by Noir. I'm never really off necessarily, right? I try to do the 9 to 9 thing. It's kind of hard because I'm a bit obsessive, right? But most of my work goes towards writing out diet plans, training plans, creating content for the platform, right? So workout tutorials, recipes, recording new modules for courses, things like this, right? And then of course content that I put out on like public media platforms and this type of thing. And then answering questions, messages, emails, this type of thing. Right? So there's a lot of back-end admin work. But it's important to have a schedule, like, so I can tell you what hours of the day I do what. Just like my eating days, I eat in between this time and this time, right? And then on my fasting days, I fast in between this time and this time. So I have my schedule blocked out, right? Sundays, I don't take coaching calls. I don't do coaching calls. I'm still working on Sundays, but I'm not doing the calls and things like that. I'm not doing the coaching per se on Sunday. That's like my one day where my schedule is a bit looser. I try not to work too much on Sunday because I can't just be work because I need to step back a little bit, which I don't do a very good job of. But I try. But the reason why the scheduling is important is because if you don't have a schedule, then it's kind of like you don't really. It's hard to have goals, and there's no time frame. There's no clear guardrails. It's kind of like driving on a highway, but the lanes are not demarcated with lines. There's no lines on the road, right? There's no merging lane. There's no middle lane. There's no left side, right side. There's no signs for the exits. There's none of that. So imagine just a gang of cars. It's just this big 4-lane road, but the lanes aren't demarcated. So for example, you put on a turn signal and you go to turn into another lane. Well, you don't even know what lane you're even driving in because there's no demarcation on the road. It'd be chaos, right? We need clear and defined lines in order to keep order, right? Imagine dropping a car and on your car, you didn't have turning signals. Right? You'd be driving and somebody in front of you would just start moving in front of you. You're like, what the hell? Like, just driving, somebody just moving over, people just moving around, right? It'd be chaos. It'd be crazy car accidents because there's no way to signal to the people around you what you're going to do, right? It's that kind of thing. It's just absolute chaos. So when it comes to your life, this is why you need like these clear lines of demarcation and having a time frame, whether it be days, months, weeks, years, hours, minutes. These are just lines of demarcation on the road to your goals, on the road to success, right? That's all that is, right? Even having a sleep schedule, everything should be scheduled out, to be quite honest. And, you know, people will say, well, I like to do things intuitively. I like to eat intuitively. I like to wake up and go to bed intuitively. And it's like, being able to do it intuitively takes a great level of skill, right? So, for example, let's say you didn't have a watch. You went outside. You spent the whole day outside. You didn't have a watch. How would you know what time it is intuitively? So if it's 3 p.m., and you don't have a watch and you've been outside all day, how would you know it's 3 p.m.? If it was 3:20, how would you know it was 3:20? How would you know that intuitively? The only way you would be able to know that intuitively is you would have to be able to notice the position of the sun and know exactly where the sun would be at 3:20. How would you know? Imagine if the sun stayed at the same place in the sky at the same time and nighttime never came. How would you know that the time is even changing? How would you know that intuitively? right? So it's kind of like when people say, oh, I like to do these things intuitively, people say that they don't really know what that means. Because doing things intuitively takes a great level of skill, right? Like, oh, I'm in tune with my body. You know how present you have to be in order to intuitively know what your body wants and needs at any given time? You know how self-aware you have to be in order to know that? Oh, it's time to eat. It's not time to eat. It's time to fast. This is not a thing that comes naturally to people. Most people. It's just not. People will disagree with me on that. And I'm telling you right now, human beings do not have these animalistic instincts. You don't have it. And even the animalistic instincts that you do have, you don't even realize when you're having them. You don't even know. The overwhelming majority of human behavior is subconscious. You're not even aware of it. So when you just decide to do certain things, you don't even really understand why you're doing it in the time that you're doing it. Or certain feelings or thoughts you may have, you don't even realize why you're even having them. A lot of the thoughts you do have, you don't even consciously realize you're even having those thoughts or why you're having them. Most of the time, you don't know. I'm telling you, it's deep. There's a lot of background stuff happening in your mind that you're completely unaware of. You have no idea. You don't have as much free will as you think you do. And the reason why is because whatever free will you think you have, you don't even realize when you're exercising at any given moment in time. Like, to know if you're doing something of free will, there's a lot of deep exploration that you have to go through to even know that that's true. Because there's all of these external forces that are acting on you at any given moment in time. Of most of your behavior is impulsive. And if your behavior is impulsive, that's actually a lack of autonomy. You're not consciously making a well thought out decision to do a particular thing. You're just doing it on impulse. That's not free will. There's a thing that's acting on you and you're subconsciously responding. That's not free will. You're not consciously doing it. Right? There's a whole lot of mindset work and personal self-development that you have to go through in order to be able to expand your ability to engage in free will, in true autonomy. It's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't come naturally to people, especially in the world that we live in. It just doesn't. We have a lot of deep limitations as human beings, right? Like when we're born as babies, we are so useless and vulnerable, it's insane. Right? Like, for example, a deer gives birth to a baby. A deer will just give birth standing up, and the baby will slide out and bam, hit the ground and just be in a sack. Right? Just fall right out. Imagine your mom is just standing up and squatting down and just pushes you out. Can you imagine a human mother, like a human pregnant woman, just gives birth standing and just dumps a baby out on the ground? The baby would get injured from the fall. This is what I'm saying. You have a deer or something, it could just get pushed out, just fall on the ground, and then just get up and start walking moments later. It's crazy. Can you imagine? You give birth to your baby as a woman, you just push your baby out, baby hits the ground, and then a few moments later, your baby's just up and walking alongside you. Can you imagine? As a woman, think about that. You give birth to your baby, you lick your baby to clean your baby off, and then your baby just gets up and starts walking with you. How freakish would that be? That would be freaking crazy. Imagine that. Right? As human beings, it's like your baby has no control over their body. They have no idea what's going on. Being born as a blank slate, you have no context for reality at all. You just get ambushed by life. Being born as a brand new baby is insane. I think about this sometimes. Imagine you as an adult with everything you know right now, and you were to just restart your life and be born. It would be terrifying. Right? You were reborn, but all of the faculties that you developed by the time you're an adult, if you just reset, you lose all of your autonomy. You lose all your muscle mass. You lose all of your context for life, all of your intelligence. You just lose all of it. You're a blank slate. It's like a factory default, like a factory reset. Blank slate. You're just fresh out the womb. No command over your body. Bright lights. Movement, commotion, stuff all over the place. There's another large being holding you. It's like, what the hell? You're being touched and all examined, all stuff happening to you, and you have no context for any of it. Right? You have no command over your body. Imagine being an adult and you have no command over the limbs of your body, and someone else is just holding you. And like, they just hold you for as long as they want to hold you. It's not like you can get out of their arms and just go somewhere and do whatever you want. You're completely subordinate to whoever's holding you. Right? And you don't have language, so you can't like ask for things. All you can do is like cry and fuss because you don't have the tools to be able to articulate your desires. You don't even know what your desires are. You don't even have desires. You have like kind of a vague sense of an idea, kinda, but not really, because life is brand new. Right? You don't know what eating is. You don't know what drinking is. You don't know what sleep is. You don't know what none of that is. All you know is like, I'm agitated, and I don't know why I'm agitated. And this other thing that's a parent has to figure out why you're agitated. It's crazy. It's humbling, right? Because as a human being, this is kind of like what it's like, right? And we improve a lot as adults, but I mean, being a human being, we're not as advanced as our ego may tell us we are. It's just that as human beings, we have certain skills. Like as human beings, we have the ability to engage in like development, like building, right? Like other animals don't really have the ability to farm land or like build homes. The only other animals that have the ability to build homes are maybe like birds, because they can like build nests and stuff like this. Other animals, typically what they'll do is like they'll dig holes and things like that. We can actually build homes, and the thing is that we're able to make decisions to build a home for ourselves and somebody else, right? We have the ability to like repair things and fix things, right? Like there aren't really other animals on the planet that can go and find another injured animal and then repair their body and then nurse them back to health. Those other animals don't really have the capacity to do that in the way we do. We have these abilities, and the thing that demonstrates to us the reason why we have these abilities is because we have this great capacity to serve others. So like the biggest, most important attribute that makes us distinct from other animal beings on the planet is our ability to serve others, to be a steward. This is another reason why I'm a big fan of like the plant-based vegan lifestyle, right? Is because this is, you come to the conclusion of veganism with the understanding that your superpower as a human being is your capacity to serve others, to expand well-being for others. You can find an animal or a person with a broken leg or a broken arm and help them. You have the ability to provide resources, shelter, protection for others, including yourself. It's powerful. However, if you're a human being, you don't really have an interest in doing that and you don't value it, there is a large part of you, your humanity, that you never tap into. And if you never tap into that, you'll never really realize your full potential as a human being. You'll never really truly understand what it is to be a human being until you tap into that. All right. So like these are the things I think about a lot, right? Life becomes a lot more meaningful when you tap into your capacity and ability to serve others. It raises the stakes of life. And what's interesting is, as human beings collectively, we know this to one degree or another, right? this is why like we view this is why we view selfishness as being a negative thing, right? This is why we view narcissism as being a negative thing. When you're self-oriented, like egotistical, we don't like egotisticalness, which is basically a pathological level of egotism. We don't like selfishness. Selfishness is viewed as a negative thing. It's not inherently negative, but it becomes pathological. And pathological priority on self is what's valued as selfishness. And the reason why is because we view withholding service as being a negative thing. Refusing to engage in service is a negative thing, right? Greed, that's another thing. Greed is excess resource accumulation. And so when you're engaging in excess resource accumulation, you are by proxy withholding resources from everyone else around you, right? The implication of the fact that we view these things as being immoral or unethical shows us that at the root of humanity is service. It's the root of humanity is service, being a good steward to others, engaging in community and collective, organizing and help and service, right? Now you can be too selfless. That's possible also, right? So there has to be a balance, right? Human beings are a duality, right? So you have human beings are an ego and a spirit, right? So your ego is your self, your sense of self. That's your ego. We all have it, right? We understand that we are autonomous individuals in an autonomous individual body. We can look in the mirror and recognize ourselves. That's your ego allows you to do that. If you don't have an ego, you won't know that. So you'll have some animals, they'll look in a mirror and not realize they're looking at themselves. They don't really have an ego. As human beings, we do have an ego. So we can look in the mirror and recognize, oh, that's me. Even to the point where, quite honestly, as human beings, we've leaned so far into our ego to the point where we have selfies. We have a front-facing camera. We have mirrors in every house, right? We're obsessed with how we look. We get fashion and all this type of stuff. I mean, as human beings in our society, we've leaned so heavy into our ego, which is dangerous because now this becomes excess egotism, which breeds egotisticalness. And then when you combine this excess egotism with trauma, you get narcissism. Right? Narcissism is a combination of trauma and excess egotism merged together to form a personality disorder. Right? That's essentially what this is. So it's important to keep that egotism in check. Human beings have tried to do this. For example, covering up and being modest. Right? You have like religions, Abrahamic religions, for example, putting on head coverings, right? Uh-oh, what's this? Oh, the TikTok thing. Oh, I hate when TikTok does this. TikTok does this annoying thing where you have to slide this puzzle piece thing over. It's like this little thing that you do. You know, if you ever go on a website and it asks you to check if you're a human being, right? And you got to do like this little puzzle. You got to solve it in order to prove you're a human being. TikTok does that to basically be like, are you actively on the live stream, which is kind of annoying. Because if you don't engage with it, it'll automatically end the stream. And say, oh, we ended the stream due to inactivity, which is annoying because you know I'm not inactive, right? Because my mic is picking up audio. But anyways, TikTok is a ghetto platform. It's got a lot of issues, but it's all good. So we let the TikTok folks funnel back in. That's deeply annoying. In any case, yeah, so you have like these Abrahamic religions and they'll basically practice head coverings, scarves, burqas, things like this, right? As a means of, and this is a spiritual practice, but the reason why it's deemed as a spiritual practice is because when you engage in spiritual practices, that puts a check on egotism, right? Because egotism and spirituality is a zero-sum game between the two. So basically, more spirituality leads to less egotism, and more egotism leads to less spirituality. So there's this tug of war between the two, right? So you have these religions. So if you look at a woman and she's wearing like a head covering or a face covering or whatever, and you may view it as being ridiculous or extreme or oppressive and all of this type of stuff, or she can't wear she can't wear a bikini at the beach. Right, so she's got to cover up and cover up at the beach and all this type of stuff. You may view that as being oppressive, and she doesn't view it as oppressive. The difference is she's doing it for spiritual reasons, to put a check on egotism. But the thing is that if you don't understand spirituality and egotism, you may not be aware of the motivation behind that. It's not oppressive. It may seem oppressive to you because you don't want to wear it, and so you feel like somebody is wearing it, they're being forced to. Now you can say, well, that's born out of patriarchy. And it's like, well, sure, but it kind of depends, right? If she doesn't want to wear it and she's being forced to wear it by men, well, then that's patriarchal oppression. If she's doing it as a means of engaging in spiritual practice, and that's what she prefers, that's not patriarchal oppression. That's a spiritual practice. It's a different thing. So there's a bit of nuance with something like this. Oh, you know what? I lost the comments. That's right. So people ask me questions in the comments on TikTok, and then it closed the stream. All right. Let me get to some Q&A here. I'm over here talk. I'm yak. Let me catch up with y'all in the comments. Let's see. I'm doing 16-8. I'm on day 16. I'm eating 1,100 calories. Ooh, you may want to eat more than 1,100 calories. It's a little too low. You generally don't want to eat below your BMR. Not for like 16-8. That's a little steep. Prod KCK. What's up, bro? This is random, but this is the first time I've seen you without your hat. Hell yeah. Yeah. My hair on my head is it's getting a little long. Gotta let the curls free. Wouldn't we drop weight as well? So Miss D, wouldn't we drop weight as well if we eat one meal a day? Yeah, you would. Yeah, absolutely. Virginia Stevens, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Yeah, Miss D, she said deaf, not lazy. So very difficult to get the weight gone with all the crap the doctors feed us. Yeah, it's true. It's not. Let me tell you something. D, you're a true inspiration to me. You're one of the most hardworking people I know. Right? If anybody's ever paid attention to a person who has truly put the work into developing spirituality, you know it when you see it. It's very impressive because it's hard to do. We live in a society that rewards egotism, so that makes practicing spirituality very difficult. I would also know your thoughts on OMAD for weight loss. Does it slow metabolism? Yeah, I mean, the more aggressive your weight loss approach is, the slower your metabolism will get. I mean, just reducing the amount of food you eat will slow down your metabolism because there's less to metabolize. Reducing thermogenesis slows down your metabolism, right? So when you reduce thermogenesis by reducing exercise, by reducing body temperature, and then you reduce the amount that you eat, and that would slow down your metabolism. If you increase thermogenesis, that increases metabolism. If you increase the amount of food you eat, that increases metabolism. So as your metabolism drops, weight loss also drops. That's why it's good to do things in order to provoke an increase in your metabolism to get further body fat reduction. Thoughts on eating multiple meals on a circadian rhythm vegan diet to build bodybuilding muscle. A circadian rhythm diet. I don't know what you mean by a circadian rhythm diet. But like eating in abundance could also lead to weight loss depending on what you're eating because you're increasing your metabolism. So if you increase your metabolism high enough with the right types of foods, basically this would incentivize the preservation of more lean mass and drop your fat mass because it's a shifting on priority, right? So for example, you eat like a diet that's like a whole food plant-based vegan diet, and it's like 80-10-10 or some variation of this, and you ate in abundance and a caloric surplus. You could actually drop body fat and build muscle doing that as well. And the reason why is because you're keeping thermogenesis elevated enough to the point this incentivizes greater levels of insulin sensitivity and a reduction in stress, this therefore causing a reduction in aromatase, which reduces muscle mass, and myostatin, which reduces muscle mass. So you reduce these levels and that increases your ability to build muscle mass and drop body fat, right? Because it uses a hormonal change that results from an increased metabolism. I hope I explained that right. Tiffany, hi, what's the best method to remove the notorious mucoid plaque? Long-term water fasting, juice fasting. Yeah, what people call mucoid fat plaque, right, essentially is a calcification or plaque buildup in the intestinal endothelium, right, as well as a buildup of waste in the colon. Right, that's what people mean when they say mucoid plaque, right? It's waste buildup that binds up the microvilli and whatnot that lines your intestines also. A high fiber diet actually helps to fix that issue, right? So eating more of like a fiber-rich whole food plant-based diet actually helps to reverse that. And you can combine it with like herbs and water fasting and things of that nature. Thoughts on methylation issues and trying to fix them with supplements. Supplementing B vitamin. What are my thoughts on it? When you say methylation issues? Right. You say YouTube no sound, we can't hear you. How long can y'all not hear me for? I guess my sound came back. Yeah, as far as methylation issues, I think generally speaking, liver decongestion, right? So that conversion actually happens largely in the liver. So when you improve the health of your liver, that improves that whole process. It's improving the health of your liver and your digestive tract, your gut health, right? So when you have like that high carb diet where like carbs are anywhere between 80 to 75% or 65% of your macros, you have a fiber-rich, water-rich diet that helps to improve that issue. And then you add in like fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, plant-based yogurts like coconut yogurt, this type of thing, cashew yogurt. This can significantly improve on methylation issues, right? By improving your gut microbiome and liver health. All right. Mark, what's going on? Mr. Mark Donnelly. Big shout out to you. I'm 5'10" and weigh 155 pounds. How many weeks do you think I would need to set to get down to 6% body fat? Generally speaking, I would have, 5'10", 155 pounds. I'd probably say 12 weeks, but it also depends on what your lean mass is. What's your current body fat percentage? Because you could be 5'10", 155 pounds, but then be like 8% body fat, 10% body fat already. So it really depends on what your body fat percentage is. Oh, Jerry Barfield. Let me say, please contact me back when you get a chance. Oh, you sent me a DM on TikTok? All right. Oh, well, did you send me a DM on TikTok or did you email me? I got a phone call. Did you call me? I got a bunch of messages since I've been live. All right, let's see. Daniel Baker, was it Danielle Baker? Hi, thank you for this chat and all your information. What do you think about juicing watermelon and melons in the morning with gut health issues and SIBO? I would eat them. I wouldn't juice them. I would eat them whole. Because if you have an issue like SIBO, you want to get the fiber. Because the fiber is a good detoxification mechanism. And then to get rid of SIBO, I would also have more herbs that would do like herbal teas and things like that. That have an antimicrobial element to them, right? So ginger, turmeric, tulsi, also known as basil. Seasoning foods with things like cumin and garlic, turmeric, curry, cayenne, parsley, nettle, right? Things like this, fennel. Because those are things that are antimicrobial. They kill off bad bacteria, right? Because SIBO basically is an excess bacteria in your upper gut. All right. So definitely having more of a fiber-rich diet. Oh, look at my DMs. Okay, got you. All right. Oh, you think your body fat is 13%? Yes, I would say like a good 12 weeks. I would give it 12 weeks. Yeah. By the way, though, for those of you who are not tribe members yet, whether you're in the public square or you haven't even joined the public square yet, you can book a call with me. So you can hit the link in my bio, or if you're on the Tribunal platform, you can log in, and in the header it says consultation, right? So you can book a call with me there. All right, so we got like a full hour to go through whatever you want to talk about. All right. For those of you who have not joined the public square, I'm currently live right now on Tribe by Noir in the public square, right? So you can actually join that live stream or my future live streams on the public square as well. And the public square is the free Tribe by Noir community. And then if you want like my high raw vegan nutrition guide, my alternate day fasting strategy. So if you want to know how to actually do the alternate day fasting strategy, as far as like herbal teas, supplements, schedule, what your training should look like on your training days, all that type of stuff. So you want to do alternate day fasting with a tighter structure. I have a whole guide for that. That's available for Tribe by Noir members, along with the high raw vegan nutrition guide that also comes with diet plans that you can use as a template. All right. And then also Tribe members get the Tribe Flex training series, right? So there is a Tribe Flex training guide that's all body weight and resistance bands, and it shows you how to structure your workouts. It shows you the methodology, gives you the full step-by-step breakdown of how to engage in training in order to maximize muscle growth and strength without tearing up your joints. And only needing about 60 to 90 minutes a week of resistance training, right? So that's what Tribe Flex is geared towards, really simplifying the process. So there's the Tribe Flex guide that breaks down the methodology, and then there's the Tribe Flex training series. And the Tribe Flex training series is a men's version and a women's version. All right, so it's basically sex specific training programs. All right, so if you're a woman or female, you would do that version, and if you're a male, you would do the men's version, right, or the male's version. Right? If you're a trans woman, you do the woman version. If you want to develop more of like a physique that's geared towards women, and then if you're a trans man, then you would do the men's version. Right? So making that caveat there. the training plans are more so geared towards muscular development. And the reason why it's gender specific is because of androgen receptors. Women have most of their androgen receptors in their lower body. Men have more of your androgen receptors in your upper body, particularly in your shoulders and your neck. All right. So if you wanted to build the most muscle mass, then you would train more so geared towards where most of your androgen receptors are. All right. Also with women have faster recovery, so you can engage in a bit more training volume, whereas men, you have a lower recovery rate. So your training volume would be a bit lower than women's. Right, so there's some nuances there. You say you're trying not to laugh. Please forgive me. What do you think about the carnivore diet? I wouldn't advise anybody to do a carnivore diet. Basically, you know, most of the people who... The carnivore diet thing is actually dying out pretty quick. I just recently came across a video where even Joe Rogan was like, he tried and he had to stop doing it because he wasn't feeling well. Yeah, Paul Saladino, he wrote a whole book advocating for a carnivore diet, and he had to drop that because he wasn't feeling well. Basically, a carnivore diet is like notorious for wrecking people's health. The longer you do it, the worse the outcomes become, right? So no, I don't really recommend that. Yeah, somebody coming with... Somebody coming with hate speech on TikTok in the comments? That's crazy. Alright, so we hit that block button. So we had to block a troll over there on what about people like Dr. Sean Baker? Well, Sean Baker's not a doctor. He's been 9 years carnivore. Yeah, he's not in great health either. So Sean Baker's notorious for lying, so I don't really trust him what he says. Last time I saw Sean Baker, he was in a debate with a plant-based doctor. Yeah, I blocked him. I banned him. So basically, he was in a debate with a plant-based doctor, and he had to soften up basically all of his claims. He had to walk back and soften up his claims because he didn't have any evidence to support his claims. So when he's on his channel doing solo content, he can make all these really bold claims, but in a debate with a doctor, where you're in a debate, you need to provide evidence for your claims, he had to walk a lot of it back. So I don't find him credible in the same way I don't find, like, what's his name? Anthony Chafee. That guy lies like crazy, right? I mean, just compulsive liar to a very weird degree. And he was in a debate with a plant-based doctor, and he got caught flat-footed. He had no evidence for any of the claims he was making in that debate. It looked real bad. What about Eddie? What's that guy's name? The Eddie, he's the black guy. He looks real dehydrated and angry. And he's always doing videos on why you need to eat more, like, you know, cheese and eggs and whatever. What's funny is, like, Eddie, it seems to be a guy who's, like, very angry and kind of, like, not a bit maladjusted, but apparently he's a psychiatrist. Is that right? Yeah, he's an amusing character. I don't think he's actually very educated in nutritional science or anything like that, based on the content that I've seen of him. What do you think about raw dandelion greens? Dandelion greens are amazing. They add in salads and things like that. It's highly beneficial. I'm also a big fan of roasted dandelion root. Roasted dandelion root and roasted dandelion root tea is amazing. It's really good stuff. So yeah, that whole carnivore diet thing. It's also like The carnivore diet is a result of like a it's a deeply like American Eurocentric thing. It's a cultural it's a manifestation of a cultural pathology. Right? When I say it's a manifestation for a cultural pathology, is because it's an extremely violent and destructive diet. Now, you did have people who followed more of like a carnivore diet, but that was a result of a lack of societal development. So, like, you had nomadic tribes. Nomadic tribes, they weren't carnivores, though, necessarily, right? Because they were opportunistic eaters. So, like, if you were a nomadic tribe, you weren't, like, farming and cultivating the land, right? So you had to, like, hunt, you had to pick berries and things like this. So if you were a nomadic tribe and you didn't have access to, like, wild growing fruit and things like this, well, then you would have to, like, have, like, more of an animal-based diet, right? So there was, like, a circumstantial reason for that. It wasn't a diet fad. It's because they didn't have access to other foods. So when people are like, oh, I follow a carnivore diet because that's what my ancestors did, it's like that's not. First of all, me as a perfect person of African descent who comes from a people who've always been historically agricultural, my ancestors did not follow a carnivore diet. Okay, my people are agricultural. Now, if you come from a culture of people who are like, they lived up in mountains or something where they weren't like, let's say you come from like descendants of like Northern Europe or something like this. Yeah, maybe your ancestors had to do that, but we have different ancestors, right? But basically, that whole carnivore diet thing is a result of resource deprivation. You don't deliberately engage in resource deprivation, right? Agriculture, plant-based agriculture, is the backbone of civilization. So when you have like cities, when you have governments, economies, you have people who settle the land and cultivate the land, building universities, hospitals, and things like this. When you have a growing population, you need to engage in agriculture, right? That's the natural evolution of human beings, right? And so as you become more sophisticated as people, you cultivate different plants, you grow different fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, seeds, and then you can feed a larger population as a result of cultivating the land and expanding that farming and agriculture, right? And then this reduces like the threats of having like a lack of food, because hunting in an animal diet, you don't eat that often, right? You can spend your whole day hunting and not catch anything, right? And so as you have a population that gets larger and larger, there's not enough animals to feed a growing human population. So if you try to have this carnivore diet, you end up destroying a lot of the environment, and you end up driving, animal species into extinction as a result. It's not feasible. It's a personality disorder thing. It's a cultural pathology. You can't have a population where a species is like existing in the billions, and then they're just all eating animals, right? Because basically what you end up having is you end up having mass extinction events because you're hunting animals into extinction, to the point where now people are now fighting with each other over the limited amount of animal meat that's left. And then if you're eating like a what is it, that guy Eddie, I don't know his last name. If you just have everybody and they're eating 12 eggs a day, okay, well then basically you're going to run into a shortage of birds, because birds are laying eggs to grow babies, and then you're eating all the damn eggs, so you have a lack of the birds that are actually supposed to hatch from the eggs. So you drive the birds from extinction because you're raiding all the birds' nests of all the eggs, to the point where you just don't have any new babies being born or hatched. It's not sustainable. So this whole idea, every day you're eating all types of meat and eggs and all of this. Okay, well, you're just going to kill everything around you. You're going to overfish the oceans. You're going to hunt all the deer and the gazelle and everything else into extinction. You're going to kill all the bears and eat all the bears. And you eat all the eggs, and you're going to eat all the birds. You just have human beings who are just this sick parasitical organism that is just eating through the environment, to the only thing that's left for human beings. And what's the next step from that? When you eat all the human beings and you're on a carnivore diet, guess who those human beings are going to be eating next? Other human beings. So now human beings are not going to be able to trust each other because they're eating each other. And then you're going to have wars of cannibalistic tribal people fighting and killing and eating each other. Right? So the whole carnivore diet thing is the most ridiculous and pathological thing. And this is an idea that comes from people who are narcissists and sociopaths. They're highly violent and destructive people. And that comes from a highly violent and destructive culture. And those are people who are a danger to everyone around them, including the planet itself. For the reasons I just explained. Right? Going back to the thing that I said about human beings are supposed to cultivate the land and be stewards and live a life of service, because basically the key aspect of humanity is the ability to serve. The ability to cultivate, to build, to act as a community, and to serve everyone around them. But if you're eating everything around you, well, you're not serving, because you're over here eating and killing everything you're supposed to be serving. That's why I say that. This isn't a moral argument. This is an ethical argument. This is an ethical argument based in logic and material conditions. You can't argue against me on this point. Nobody's ever been able to effectively argue against me on this point. It's just a flat objective fact. It's just math. It's just how it works. All carnivores exist in small populations. So you're not going to have billions of lions roaming the earth. Billions of hyenas roaming the earth, where they're eating multiple times a day, every day. You don't have that, and there's a reason why you don't. Okay. Interestingly enough, bacteria are carnivorous. And guess what? When you get a growth of bacteria, especially flesh-eating bacteria, what do you call that? It's called a pandemic. It's called a disease. Right? You need antibiotics. Right? We inherently already view that kind of overconsumptive behavior as a disease, a virus or a plague of some sort. Right? So what I'm saying is not new. We already believe this. It's already like a common thing. A plant-based diet, interestingly enough, is like very fiber rich. So people are like, oh, human beings don't need fiber. Fiber is a check on your appetite. The more fiber rich your diet is, the less likely you are to over-consume food. It puts a check on your appetite. Right? So it keeps people from over-consuming resources. It's a self-balancing mechanism. Right? Seasonal food growth. That's another thing, right? Because foods grow seasonally. This is also a check on your appetite. Right? So you have all of these things. The ecosystem works perfectly. You just have to cooperate with it and respect it. That's it. Right? You say carnivore diet is very popular. Yeah, carnivore diet is very popular in a sick society. That's why, like, it's a very like American centric. The culture in the U.S. is very perverse. Right? It has extreme problems. Right? That has become highlighted now, especially in our society now, where the U.S. is viewed as a pariah state. Right? You have like this disgusting orange bloated PDF file in the Oval Office now, covering up them Epstein files, right? Because he's in them, right? Because you got like these kid diddlers in high positions of power, and that has now put a real spotlight on American culture and the rot that's been at the center of what we call the United States, which has always been a perverse, disgusting country. Because it's built on slavery and genocide, right? And you have to address the outgrowth of that culture: capitalism, overconsumption, the self-absorbed culture with the self-absorbed, selfie culture and all this. The obsession with money and accumulating resources and the greed that manifests. And so, yeah, it's a sick society. And so you're getting increased levels of high blood pressure and diabetes and all of this, and this obsession with protein, for example, right? So we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of learning to do, because this trajectory is not going in the right direction. Right? So that's why we got to wake up in the morning and have these conversations. We got to get real. Like, yo, what are we doing here? Right? So. And we got heavy. Brian, thank you for the goat. Appreciate you. Look at that, 12:42 already. It's almost time for me to get to work. It's time for me to get my work day started. Big shout out to Shannon for joining the public square. Look at that, I got a bunch of messages to get to here. So yeah, definitely. I got a lot of good stuff coming to the Tribe by Noir community, and it's half off right now too, by the way. So you wanted to join the Tribe by Noir community, you want to become a community member. What does it say? Your access to go live and multi-guest will be restored on August 7th. What happened August 7th? Yeah, I got flagged for TikTok for misinformation about what? The violation was misinformation? What was the misinformation about? Because they didn't tell me what misinformation I got flagged for. Look at that, my stream was canceled twice already on TikTok. So basically, TikTok revoked my ability to go live until August 7th. And I was flagged for misinformation, but they won't tell me what the misinformation was. This is the reason too why, like, I don't really. I'm very weary of TikTok as a platform, because there's a lot of issues with it, right? I mean, if you want to challenge me and say, and flag me for misinformation, well, tell me what the misinformation was. Just don't say misinformation and then don't tell me what the misinformation was. Because now I'm like, did I say something about Trump that TikTok didn't like? Is that what that is? Because that's when the flag started. Or did I say something about the carnivore diet that they don't like? And that's the case. What did I say about the carnivore diet that's not true? Oh, that was probably the troll that got banned. I don't know, maybe. But can one person flag you for misinformation? And then I probably got flagged for saying genocide. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, and remember too when that TikTok ban thing was going on, and they temporarily took TikTok down, like they temporarily banned it, and then the Trump administration put it back up. So basically, it's like, yeah, basically the U.S. government owns TikTok now. So now they heavily police what you can and can't say on the platform. Right? So this is why, like, I have my own platform on Tribe by Noir, is because you have, you know, certain governmental powers and they want to control speech. Right? So, like, yeah, the censorship issue is like a major problem. So that's just a part of the territory. That's how that goes. Unfortunately. But TikTok, like, I have like 260,000 followers on TikTok, but when I post a video, only like a few hundred people will see the video. Right? So, and TikTok has had me shadow banned for like 2, maybe 3 years now. So, like, I'm like, I don't really rock with TikTok as a platform now. I don't really see it as being a reliable or legit platform. That's why I stopped streaming on TikTok for a while and I started on YouTube. But yeah, this is the world we live in. I mean, if you're going to start talking about like a plant-based diet and reversing chronic illness and helping people, they don't want that. When you start talking about animal agriculture, they don't want that. So you can go on the internet and get like millions of followers really quickly by telling people to avoid eating fruit and vegetables and eat more meat, and that'll blow up. You'll be on all the podcast circuits and everything like that. Because the animal agricultural industry owns the platforms. And so all those corporate offices that make the decision of who's going to be put in the algorithm, they artificially decide what you get to see, right? Because the corporate powers, that's what they put up. So, you know, unfortunately, social media is like a form of social engineering. And so you have these corporate interests where they basically get to decide what information you get, what information you don't. Right? So, and this is how you get to manufacture what's going on with Israel now. Right? So, yeah, I mean, it's rough, dangerous times that we're living in, but that's how that goes. It's real out here, folks. So, yeah, basically, I'm not going to be able to stream on TikTok for quite a while. Because of the supposed misinformation that they're not going to tell me about. What's your ideas on being type 2 diabetic and wanting to get pregnant? 5'2", 228 pounds, 46% body fat. Yeah, I would say, yeah. So basically, there's a lot of risk to your health in getting pregnant. And whatever genes that you may have that predispose you to things like obesity and metabolic disorders, you want to work on deactivating those genes first and really get into a healthy state before getting pregnant. Because when you do get pregnant, it makes it harder to get back to get healthier, right? So you want to be careful about that. So I would advise, like, I would advise definitely on improving insulin sensitivity, getting that A1C down. So having more so of a high raw, whole food, plant-based diet that's carb dominant. So we're talking about like carbohydrates is anywhere from 75 to 80%, or at least 65% of your macros. Definitely leveraging herbs and things like that in order to improve your health, decongest your liver, reduce the fat accumulation in your liver, these types of things. And really dedicate a solid year to being able to do so, right? Before like getting pregnant and have a child. Because your current health is a setup for your child, right? So the healthier you are when you give birth, the better off your child is going to be. Right? So that's the order of priority there. So when you get yourself in a better position health-wise, you set your child up for success as well. So you want to give them the best biological advantage you can beforehand. You said they banned me on TikTok for speaking the truth. Yeah. You know, that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in, unfortunately. Now the thing too is that I don't know what they flagged me for. I don't know what they flagged me for. Yes, I won't. They won't. They don't even tell you what they even flagged as misinformation, so you don't know what you can say or can't say. All right, so this says appeal approved. We reviewed your appeal and found that your live violates our community guidelines. Your live access will not be restored until suspension. So why did they say the appeal was not approved? So you said I said something the government didn't like? Yes, I may have to avoid going live on TikTok at all because I don't really have confidence in the platform because they're not going to tell you what you can and can't say. So basically, it's like you don't really know what you can or can't say, and basically that puts a chilling effect on free speech, right? So it's like, oh, you spread misinformation that violates our guidelines, but we're not going to tell you what that misinformation was. So even if I wanted to genuinely correct whatever misinformation I put out, I can't do so because I don't know what the misinformation was. That's meant to put a chilling effect on free speech. So it makes people paranoid about saying things that may be offensive to the government or whatever. It's not a good precedent to set, right? Like imagine like a police officer stops you and then writes you a ticket, but they won't tell you what the ticket was written for. And the ticket doesn't specify what the violation was. It's just like, oh, you got a ticket for $500, but you don't know what the ticket is for. So in order to avoid getting that ticket in the future, well, you don't know what to do to resolve the issue because you don't know what the ticket was for. It's that. That's meant as a means of intimidation. That's what that is. That's a very nefarious thing to do. If I was running a platform and I wanted to flag somebody for misinformation, I would let them know what the misinformation was. I wouldn't just say it's misinformation and strike their account. That's an insidious thing to do, right? You said scarier time for this administration, especially for people of color. Yeah. We said free speech, just watch what you say. Well, there's no way to know there's no way to watch what you say if you don't know what the offense was. Right? So like if somebody tells you don't use inappropriate speech and then you ask them what inappropriate speech is and they don't tell you, well, how are you going to watch out, make sure you don't engage in inappropriate speech if you don't know what it was? Because like I'm not making a free speech argument. That's not even the argument I'm making. It's not a free speech argument. Right? I'm making the argument of, look, if you want to police certain speech, that's fine, but be clear about what speech you're infringing on. Be clear about what speech you're limiting, so that people know what to not say. If you're not going to let people know what to not say, then how do they avoid not saying it? right? You said I'm probably using keywords that trigger it. Or you said YouTube did it to you? Yeah, I don't know what the keywords are though. That's the thing. I don't know what the keywords were. One thing that's interesting too is because in the early days of TikTok, there was a lot of political TikTokers, and a lot of them left the platform. I guess because of that whole thing, they were getting banned. But yeah, anyways. It is what it is, y'all. You say you agree with me on how confusing it is? Yeah, I mean, it's not... And it's not really meant to be confusing. It's meant to be an intimidation tactic, right? Like it's an intimidation tactic. It's like going up to somebody and be like, "I'm gonna punch you in the face if you do something I don't like." Well, what don't you like? I'm not gonna let you know. I'm just gonna punch you. That's a menacing thing to do, right? That's what that is. You know what we got to do too. Basically, the new thing, the next best thing too, is growing your own food. If you really want to control a people or harm a people, mess with their food. What's my thoughts on creatine? Creatine is an amazing supplement. There's a lot of scientific data backing it. So yeah, I mean, it's good for people who are athletes. It's good for people who aren't athletes. It's good for elderly people. There's a lot of benefits to it. It's phenomenal stuff. Uh-oh. All right. Big shout to Karen jumping into the public square. Appreciate you. Did you hear about Bill Gates being approved for spraying something called, what's that? Oh, mRNA on our foods? I heard about a spray. I didn't hear about an mRNA spray. It was like some type of preservative spray that I heard about. That like you know how like produce aisles, they have like the little water sprinkler thing that mists like the fruits and vegetables on the shelves in the refrigerated aisle of the produce section. Apparently there's like a preservative that thing can spray out onto the food. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but I heard about that. I haven't looked deeper into it yet, though. Whenever you can, could you cite or share your sources of information? I mean, it's a pretty long list. Sources of information on what, right? So, like, for example, like I could say nature.com. I could say PubMed. Different universities, whether it be like, let's say Harvard University Studies, or it depends on the subject, right? But basically, like my citations come from like medical journals, you know, scientific journals, that kind of thing. So yeah, it depends if you want a citation for something. You just got to let me know what a citation for what you're looking for in particular. So yeah, I'm really got to start really getting into learning how to grow my own food and start doing that. So once I start that process, I'm definitely going to be putting out some video and whatnot on it. You've grown, well, you said you're growing soursop now, or you've grown it in the past? Soursop, key lime, avocado. That's dope. So you've had success with growing soursop. Where did you grow it? Carol, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Well, you said you're not having progress and losing weight. What's the strategy you're currently doing? Oh, you're growing it now. Gotcha. Deep question. What's the meaning of life? Finding happiness and evolving spiritually. I don't know if life necessarily has a meaning per se, right? I mean, it means to you whatever you decide it means to you. You say you're not losing weight on a fruit diet. So, like, for example, well, I don't know. What fruit are you eating? How much of it you're eating? What are you eating in combination with it? There's a lot of questions I would have to ask or get further information about it. Because, like, there are no magic bullets, but there are certain strategies that work more often than not. So, like, if you have a diet where you're just only eating fruits, I never really seen a diet where you said grapes and watermelon. So you've just only been eating grapes and watermelon and you haven't lost any weight. What's your current weight? And how long have you been doing it for? I don't think I've ever seen anybody not lose weight from eating just grapes and watermelon. Oh, you said you eat oats and rice also? Well, the oats and rice are now kind of offset it a bit. You're 180 pounds. How tall are you? So far, soursop was successful this year. I had about 5 soursops riped well to eat. That's dope. You gotta hit me up in the Discord. Let me know how you're growing it. Like, are you growing it in the backyard? Are you growing in bags? How you growing? Hi, I'm 6 foot. You're 6 feet tall, 130 pounds, plant-based, and looking to reach 180 pounds healthy with muscle. I know you did a live on it, but what do you think would be a timeline to reach? You've been exercising all year. So basically you're trying to put on 50 pounds. I think you can gain anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds. You can gain anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds a week, depending on how you structure your diet. I would have to know more information. Like, if you're 6 feet, 130 pounds, how did you get to be 130 pounds? Because where you're starting from, that matters. You're 180 pounds, 5'2". You must be eating a lot of rice and oats. What are you putting in the rice and oats? So if you're eating rice, what are you eating the rice with? And then if you're eating the oats, what are you putting in the oats? You said they could have some of my weight? Yeah, I'd have to know more about like how much you're eating. Because if you're 5'2", your nutrient levels or amounts don't really need to be. Also, like how many pounds of fruit a day are you eating versus like how much rice and oats you're eating a day? Oh, you follow my overnight oat recipe? When are you eating the overnight oats? That's another good question too. So for example, if you don't mind me asking, what is your height and weight? I mean, what is your height and age? Because I can calculate your BMR and give you more of like a projection of where you might be going wrong with that. Yeah, what's your height and age? All right, 61.52. And then you said your weight was what? Yeah, that's right. Book a call with me. 180. So basically your BMR is 1335. So 1335, and then let's say we add 25%. So yeah, basically I would say you would want to eat in between 1600 and 1700 calories a day if you were eating on a daily basis and having more of like a high raw fruit dominant diet. I would do that. There are ways to definitely optimize your diet for more fat metabolism. Because if you're following the overnight oat recipe that I made in the measurements that I made it in, that recipe, that comes out to being like 900 calories, something like that. So then if you're adding a lot of the grapes and watermelon on top of that and adding rice, depending on how much rice you're adding, you may be eating in enough of a surplus where you're possibly overfilling your glycogen stores. And then too, the thing you have to consider is like how much exercise are you doing? Like how many steps a day are you walking? Are you doing any resistance training? Right, things like that. Yeah, it's raining where I'm at. Yeah, it's dark out there. I wanted to go out for a walk too. So I don't know. I might have to brave the rain because I got to get moving. Oh, you get to 130 pounds because of colitis. You got it. So it's under control. Got you. Colitis. Interesting. Okay. So basically you got the colitis under control. So now you can start gaining weight. You definitely, I would say, to stick to that whole food, plant-based diet. Definitely getting in fruits like honeydew, papaya, mango. That overnight oats recipe definitely works too if you really want to start building and gaining some weight. So that overnight oats combined with the hemp seeds, bananas. So getting in a couple pounds of bananas a day really helps. I just put up a red lentil sauce recipe, like a savory taco sauce recipe that I put up. That's a good one. I would definitely say prep a few jars of that on a daily basis. How much time am I training with resistance bands? Yeah, I'm doing a push-pull leg split right now with resistance bands. I train around 2 to 3 times a week. My training sessions are in between 20 to 30 minutes. All right, folks, I've been on here for like 2 hours. I got to get to work. Get ready for my next call. But yeah, if y'all need help, you want to definitely book a call with me. Become a tribe member to get the full playbook. All right. Appreciate everybody. I'm gonna be back on here next week, Tuesday morning. You haven't said that. I'll talk to you soon.